The values that variables store have different types. There are different types of values that variables store. And in C, we saw in the last question that we solved that we had like an integer kind of value. We had another kind of value that was a string. A string is a character. It could be a numeric character, it could be an alphabetic character, and it could be, a true or false value. That's a boolean. It could be a numeric character with a decimal place. That's called a float. So they are like uh, different types of variables that could be stored, values that could be stored in a variable. So we need to the coursework that we are going to solve today would help us to understand all of these variables. There are different types, how to use them, how to manipulate them, how to play with them, how to use them to solve problems. This course is designed to grow your technical competence. We are not just here to tell you that there's something such as variables. We are not just here to tell you that variables have types, but we have uh, assignments that would enable you to grow the technical competence to start understanding and using variables the right way. It says the Mimingo Community Software Engineering Training Program. Yeah, your instructor is Greenfield Adolphus, my humble self. We are to learn variables, if else, and while. The while is a loop. I'm going to explain what it is when we get there. All of these things, I will explain what they are each time I want to use them. The concepts, I already gave you all materials to read, a lot of materials, documentations, videos that already has all these concepts explained. So I assume that before coming on this live stream, you have all your materials studied. Variables and if statements, else statements, and while. These are the things that we would understand how to use. Objectives. By the end of this model, you should be able to explain without the use of Google the following. You'll be able to explain what arithmetic operators are and how to use them. I remember there's a material to teach you that. You should go read it. We don't have time for me to start going through all the material. So I just want to solve the problems, the technical problems for you associated with your assignments. You should be able to know what logical operators are. What are relational operators? They are all of these things are in your all the different operators. They are in your material. You know, you know which of them you can use to do comparison and the one you can use to associate to know if a particular value is equal to or is greater than or less than the other. You should know what values are considered to be true or false in C. Still in your materials. How to use if else statements, if and if else statements, you should know that too. How to use comments, you should know that. From our previous video, we also talked about comments as well. How to declare and assign variables, character ints, unsigned ints, and all that. We already did how to declare stuff. We already thought about that in our last class. We will still declare more variables in this class. How to print variables using printf. We did that in our last class. We'll still do that again. How to use the while loop. The while loop. The while loop. What a loop is. A loop is okay. Before I talk about the loop, let's do if and else statements. I want us to be able to understand how a block of code works before we go to loops, so I can clearly explain what loops are when we get there. So these are the things that you understand. How to use variables inside loops, how to declare them, and how to use them, how they change. How to initiate them, how to increase and decrease the value of integers in a loop, as it keeps counting. We'll still talk about that as well. What the ASCII character set is. There's an ASCII table in the materials that I gave to you. Know what ASCII values are and all that. these are the little things that uh, we should understand in the course of this class. You know, we should understand all of this in the course of this class. So I'm going to try as much as possible to solve a few questions for you. And remember, um, always have comments in your code that remind you what you're trying to do. You know, even if you come back to it after some years, you'll be able to do it in your root folder in your directory. You know, the directory that you are pushing to your repository, you should have a readme file. This readme file, in this file, you're going to explain every single thing that you're trying to do in the entire project folder. You know, this would enable you to understand what the file is about in the long run. These things that you are doing for this training program, they are professional values that you should inculcate into your life as a programmer and never do without them, because they help. They save us a lot of time and stress while writing code in a project situation. When you know, start doing a real life job or something as a programmer, you know, these are really, really good ethics to live by, to uphold, to if you want to, you know, do this job without problems. um you are not allowed to use system that, don't worry, you don't even know what it is. So all code you'd know in the future, I'll tell you. um all code should be within the main function unless otherwise specified. Yeah, so here we are. We are here to start this thing. You are expected to solve all tasks independently. Copying, plagiarism, sharing solution violates the Wimingo standard and da 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 da. So this does not mean that you should not explain to your peer. What I'm just saying is, don't try to do the assignment for the person, you know. The first task is saying positive anything is better than negative nothing. What the task requires is that we should write a program that assigns a random number to the variable n each time it runs and prints whether the number is positive, negative, or zero. Let's take that again. So it says write a program that assigns a random number. That's the first thing. Your program should do this: assign a random number to the variable n each time it runs. Each time my code runs, it should assign a random number to the variable n. So that's the first task. And then the second thing it says, and it prints whether the number is positive, negative, or zero. So what the code should do is, first of all, assign a number to a variable called n, and then the code should as well print whether the uh, random number is a positive number, negative number, or zero. In essence, our code should, there are two things that we should take into consideration. First of all, our code that we are writing should assign a random number to a variable n. The name of the variable should be n. And then the next thing that we should take into consideration is that the number should print, if it is a positive number, that this, if this random number is a positive number, a negative number, or if it is even zero, which is to say that our random number should range within negative numbers and positive numbers. So let's make a directory 0x01 dash variables underscore if underscore else underscore while. Yeah, so that's it. And let's cd into it 0x01. Yeah, so there's nothing here. We have to start. The first task we have, tag 0. What file did they say we should create? They say we should create 0 dash positive or negative dot c. So this is a C file. We are compiling with GCC. 0 dash positive or negative dot c. Now, if you take a look at this naming convention here, you will see that we have a very good naming convention. In between every word, we are using an underscore in between every word. It's a very good naming convention that you should use when you are writing your code. When you want to start naming variables, you could use that. You could do this. in JavaScript, sometimes we use camel case. We start every initial word of the variable with uh, uh, initial capital. That's the JavaScript best convention that we all use to write. Anyways, we are getting there. We are learning everything as we improve. We are learning every single thing that we are supposed to learn. All right. Where is this stuff? All right. Somebody is saying I should zoom out on my Ubuntu as well, so I will do just that. Come, these people, you guys are not even asking me if I know how to do this stuff. You just keep saying do. You assume that I know everything. I'm a human being. Oh. Okay. Okay. So I guess this is clear enough for the phone users. Yeah. So um yeah. So it was positive or negative dot C, zero dash positive or negative dot C. Um let's create that file. Zero dash, right? Positive or negative dot C. Yeah. So we just open VI. Yeah. So that's it. That's what it is. Now the first thing we are to do is, remember, we are beginners, so we need to remember to put the basic structure of a C code. Is very, very important. Remembering to put the basic structure. So if you remember very well, it was we including insert mode first. It was we including first hash. Come on, I need to change my keyboard to standard US keyboard. Yeah, it was we including the standard libraries, standard IO.h. That's the basic one because we know we are printing out something. The rest of them will include them when we know that we need them. So the next thing that we need to do is to build our main function. We have to say int main and void. We are not passing in any parameters here, and we close it. And then finally, basic structure requires that we do a return. A C must return. A C file must return something. Very important. Every C file has to have a return value. Okay, so these are basic structure. This C code would run. Okay. Now what do we do? We have to put comments here, but we are not putting the comments for the purpose of this class because it's going to take my time to type those stuff. But you have to put comments on every code that you write. It's going to take your time, but do it. I know why I keep saying you follow good conventions and you get results. Okay. So yeah, next thing we want to do is we want to initialize a variable. And what variable are we initializing? We want to initialize, we want to, the question said we should initialize n. And remember, in C programming, anytime you want to initialize a variable, you have to tell us the type of variable. So we can initialize n. Remember, I also taught you that it's possible to initialize a variable without giving it a value. And this is exactly what we've done. We have not given n any value yet, at least. We will give it a value later. And yeah, we are initializing n without giving it a value. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to, my watch is heavy, I need to take it off. The next thing we want to do is we want to use a function, a built-in function in C that generates a random number for us. And now we want this random number to change at every point in time. So srand is a built-in function that generates a random number for us. Srand, it generates a random number, and what we want to do to make this random number to not repeat itself, you know, so it's always a new random number that comes up. We want to make it, we want to pass a variable to it, and we want it to have the current time. Okay, we want to pass a variable, yeah, and we want it to have the current time, what the time is saying, passed to it. Because the current time, see the logic, because the current time is always going to be a different value for the day. Yeah, the current time is always going to be a different value. The number that srand is going to generate is always going to be a different variable anytime that the code is run. So what this means is srand, there are two libraries we need to impute now. If we want to use srand, we need to put in the standard library, because the standard library is where srand is included. All of these are things that you would know, you should know. And then if we want to use time, we also need to include time as well, time.h as well. Where is that? Hash include time.h. So these are libraries that contain time. If you want to include time, we need to include time.h. This is the library where time is included. The time function, this is a function. If you look at time, anything you see that is having this thing, this time bracket, and is taking in a parameter, know that it's a function. It has a lot of code that is built that makes it function the way it functions. Even srand is a function. See, it's a function here. It has brackets. It takes in a parameter. So you can see that functions can take in parameters. Functions can take in functions. We are going to get there when we learn about functions. There are a lot of things we have to learn. A whole lot to make you very competent. All of these little things are things that you should have at the back of your fingertips. Yeah. So srand is in the standard library and time is in the time library. Bringing it here, this function, what it does is it keeps generating a random number. Each time we run the code, it will generate a random number for us. So having done that, the next thing that we want to do is, remember, the code says, the question says that the random number should be either negative or positive, and it could be zero as well. So this is where our mind comes to work. See, this is where your mind comes to play. This is where software engineering starts. Your mind has to be working, you know. We need to solve problems. Now, I'm writing code as I'm talking to you. The reason I'm able to write this code as I'm talking to you is because I'm a senior engineer. We are beginners here. Um, Before we start writing any code at all, we should start with a pen and a paper. We should start with our mind. We should solve the problem from our minds first before we start writing code. It is you that is solving the problem, not the computer. So you need to write what they call pseudocode. Pseudocode is paper and pen version of what you want to do in English language. You know, my code, the workflow, my code will do this before it does this, before it does this, till you solve the entire problem. So we need to understand the algorithm that we would write to ensure that our code is generating random numbers that are both positive and negative. Because if you just give srand the opportunity to generate numbers, it is never going to generate a negative number. It is always going to generate a positive number. So we may want to subtract something from it. That's how it generates random negative numbers sometimes. Now, if we want srand to generate a negative number for us, what we'll do is we would want to, the maximum number srand can generate, we want to divide it by 2 and subtract it from the number that srand is creating. If we do that, sometimes it's going to generate a negative number, sometimes it's going to generate a positive number. So what it means is that, imagine that srand, the first time it runs, it generates 10 as a number. If srand should generate 10, let me do some rough work. Let me be typing down so you can see. If srand should generate 10 as a number the first time it runs, and we are removing half of 10 from 10, that means we are saying 10 minus 5, which means what will be displayed is equal to 5 at the end of the day. Now, let's go down and say that srand generates, the second time it runs, it generates 3. And remember, we are subtracting half of 10, which is 5. So that means that the number that srand is going to display at the end of the day will be minus 2. And then imagine that srand is generating a number like, okay, 5, and we are subtracting 5 from it again, which is the total number, half of the total number f rand is supposed to do. S rand is now going to generate 0. So this is how SRAM can run and sometimes generate positive and sometimes generate negative numbers. Now it boils down to the syntax. Since our mind already knows what to do, we can now start thinking about syntax. So this is how programming works. Your mind has to solve the problem first before your hand starts solving it. Your mind has to solve it. So what we can do now, we can give n a value, and we can say n is equal to rand, is equal to rand. That will run the random value, and then the next thing we want to say is, we would want to say the max rand. We would want to say, sorry, this is supposed to be in capital letters. We want to say the maximum random number, divided by 2. So n is equal to a random number minus the maximum random number that rand can produce, and now we are dividing that maximum random number by 2. That's how we get half of the maximum random number, to always subtract from the random number that rand is creating. So that will make rand n to always be, each time the code runs, it will always be those numbers I was writing down here. It will always be positive or negative. After doing this, we can now talk about an if statement, because we want to display if it is possible. We want to display if it is negative, positive or negative. Our question requires us to do so. It says the output must be a number is positive, or a number is negative, or a number is 0. So our outputs would do a print f, and would say number is positive. The next thing we'll put number is negative, is 0, or the number is. So we need to write an if statement. How we solve this is if else. Remember the question, say the assignment says would learn about variables, and would learn about if else. uh, we'll learn about if else statements as well as part of requirements. We'll still learn about loops. We'll learn about ASCII table. These are the things in the materials that you were supposed to read. I don't know if you've read them, but I'm going to teach you as though you've read them, and I will explain as much as possible the things that I can explain in because of this class, to make you understand this stuff. Yeah, so that's that. We need to come and print. We need to do an if else statement. That would help us to print. So we'll build, at this point we'll have to build an if statement. We'll say if, this is supposed to be in small letters, we'll say if n, is less than, or no, let's say if n is greater than 0, what do we do? If n is greater than 0, okay, what do we do? If n is greater than 0, it means that n is a positive number, right? That's what it means. So if n is greater than 0, it means that n is a positive number. So we want to print f. This is another possibility. I know I've always been putting the if statements. In our last class, I put if statements in curly braces. So this is just for you to know that it's not a must. I'm taking out the curly braces and I'm using the block. Now, for every if statement, the convention is that for every block of code, what a block of code is a group of lines that the computer is going to execute line after the other inside a function, or an if statement, or a conditional statement. So this that we are doing here is a block of code. Because we've kept this paragraph, the computer would know that it should associate this block of code to this function, to this conditional statement. We don't need to put the curly braces. Just so you know that it works. I remember in our last class I used the curly braces. Just so that you know that it works, I'm going to do a printf here, and I'm going to say, should I just use the random number? No, let's use a placeholder. The random number is an integer, so let's use a placeholder here. Let's use a placeholder, yeah, and say is positive. We know that this number is positive because n, the value of n is going to be greater than 0 for this block of code to run. If the value of n is not greater than 0, this block of code will not run. I think we should put a new line so things look good when we print them. And then we'll come here and say n. Remember, in printf statements, anything outside this comma will be used to replace the placeholders here in their order. If there are more placeholders in the order from the first one to the last one, is going to replace the uh, variables written here with the placeholders in the string. So yeah, that's that for that. So this is going to print uh, n, the value of n is positive. That's what's going to be there. Remember that every line of code should end with a semicolon. Now, to go out of this block of code for this if statement and do an if else, we need to start back at the same line with the if. So we'll come out of the, we'll come here, we'll come back to the beginning. Yeah, and now we are going to say else if, and we do another parenthesis here. We want to know if n is less than 0 or equal to 0. Okay, let's say if n is less than 0 this time. And then what do? We do another printf. We do another printf here. And what do we say? We want to say a placeholder I is negative, right? This is supposed to be the negative part, and we still need to do our new line, so it just looks good. And we put the variable n. Yeah, so that's that for that. We go back to the beginning of this, and now we say else. This is different from else if. This time around is else we are saying. I'm going to explain that. Now we are going to say print f and colon I is 0. I think we should still do the new line, so the next line of will not come clashing. Yeah, so that's that for that. I think this solves this question. So first of all, this is an if else statement. We've not done if else before. This is a conditional statement. If this condition is true, the computer is going to run this block of code. If the computer sees that this condition is false, then the computer is not even going to read this block at all. It's going to skip this entire block of code and check the next condition, else if this is true. If this is not true, it's going to still skip this one. But then if it's true, it's going to display this one and not display the first or the last one. And then if the both if statement and the if else statement, we can have plenty other if else or else ifs. Some programming languages use if else. Some use else if, like C is using else if, you know. Some use elif. We are going to learn as we keep learning other languages. We have a few more languages to learn in the course of this training. So for C, is else if. Like I told you, if you learn programming the right way, you are not going to struggle to learn a new language or to write. You